Japan isn't a country experiencing much violent crime. In fact, its homicide rate is among the lowest in the world. And the country already has a slight reputation for its shortage of crime. But the Japanese are, like many other people in the world, shocked when such crimes happen, especially those that give us doubt into the sustainability of democracy, like the assassination of Shinzo Abe. Important people at stake. But humans don't need to be prominent to have a frightening impact on the world coming after. Much is the case in the murder of this 21-year-old student who led a normal life until she came into a relationship with a man, unknown that he would cause her death only a few months later. And the time between their first encounter up to her murder were filled with threats and fear. She reported to police, brought evidence, but they never did anything to help her, until it was too late. This is the terror-stricken story of Shiori Ino. In January 1999, Shiori Ino was just 20 years old. She attended the Ajimi Gwaken Women's University in Niiza, Saitama, which was only 25 miles from her hometown Okagawa, just north of Tokyo. Starting in the Edo period, Okagawa became known as an important producer for safflower, a thistle-like plant. On January 6, 1999, Shiori and a friend of hers went to the Omiya train station, where the latter had an appointment for a photo shoot. However, after realizing that the photography machine didn't work, the two met a man who called himself Makoto. He said he was 23 years old and was an entrepreneur trading in cars and real estate. What the friends didn't know was that Makoto was 26 years old, and his name was Kazuhito Komatsu. Depending on the source, he owned several massage parlors with his brother Takeshi, although some Japanese sources depict the business as a brothel. In any way, Kazuhito was very successful with his work. After spending some time with this man, Shiori and her friend exchanged numbers with him. It didn't take long until Shiori and Kazuhito started dating. After meeting for a couple times, he already started to give her expensive gifts, such as Louis Vuitton bags or suits. Always in public places where a lot of people could see that. But Shiori, who wasn't really into such stuff, didn't want to take them. In the end, he had to force her to accept the presents. It must have already been obvious to Shiori back then that something wasn't going all right. More so did it when she found out in March that he had been lying to her about his identity the entire time. She stumbled upon a credit card bearing his real name inside his car. At this point, she tried to end the relationship. Shiori breaks up with him. She's uncomfortable. Something isn't right. But he doesn't take no for an answer. He begins calling her constantly, sending letters, waiting outside her school. Almost 3 months after their first encounter, Shiori told a friend that she was scared for her life. This proves that she was clearly aware of her dangerous situation. What she didn't know back then was that it would only get worse. Soon, Kazuhito started to impose threats upon Shiori's family. He even warned he would harm her younger brother, who was still in elementary school. For many more months, it continued like that. On June 14th, the desperate Shiori made another attempt to break up with Kazuhito, but he only responded in a violent way. With his brother and a friend, he marched over to the home of Shiori's family and a dispute started. Kazuhito told lies about the young woman, and the men only left after Shiori's father Kenichi returned from work and ordered them to get away. This whole discussion was recorded by the now 21-year-old Shiori. Shiori tells the police everything. "I'm being followed. I'm scared." But they don't believe her. They say she's exaggerating. Worse, They leak her story to the media. News reports paint her as a flirt, someone who liked the attention. Her stalker watches all of this. He's encouraged. No one's stopping him. The stalking gets worse. Shiori changes her number. She moves. But he always finds her. He sends death threats. He tells her what she's wearing, where she's going. He is watching her. Always. Again, she begs the police. Please, help me. Again, they say, there's nothing we can do. Meanwhile, Kazuhito tried to get back into a relationship with Shiori. But she told him she went to police and didn't want to endure the situation any longer. That made him furious. And it seems to have inspired him to come up with a terrible idea, soon turning into a plan, and then reality. Shiori's last day, and a sudden end. For Shiori, October 26th was a normal day. Shortly after noon, she made her way to the train station with her bike for her afternoon classes. When she arrived there and bent down to lock her bike, she was suddenly stabbed in her side. The attacker managed to stab her another time, in her heart. Shiori collapsed. Her attacker fled while she bled to death. Despite ambulance trying to transport her to the hospital, she was pronounced dead at 12:50 p.m., the cause of death being excessive blood loss. Disgrace of an innocent murder victim. After all these months of fear, the worst has come true, and the whole situation has been horrible for her family. In all this sorrow over her loss, they must have wanted only one thing: that justice is finally served. But instead of investigating properly, Saitama police started a campaign depicting Shiori's life and distributing wrong stories about her. Of course, the news picked up on that and printed story after story of how she allegedly worked as an escort. Shiori's family knew better, and a journalist with the name Kiyoshi Shimizu became the main part of uncovering the truth. In an article published in a magazine, he told the truth, the stalking leading up to Shiori's death, and who her assassins were. What hasn't been known then was that the 3 men who were hired by Kazuhito to kill her had been luring on her again on the day she died. After Kubota received the go from Ito, who watched Shiori, he approached her to stab her with a saber. Justice for Shiori. After the truth came out, arrests were finally made. All 4 conspirators, Kazuhito, Kubota, Ito, and Kawakami, were taken into custody. Others were arrested who assisted in harassing the family, resulting in such psychological terror. However, less than a month after the initial arrest on December 19th, Kazuhito avoided confinement. A warrant was issued for the man who had fled north to Hokkaido's capital, Sapporo. He never planned to be held for the crimes he committed. On January 27th, his body was found in a lake in Teshikega, in the east of the prefecture. Now that he was dead, after terrorizing his victim for months, but not having the courage to stand charges, it was still crucial to prosecute the other conspirators. Takeshi Komatsu was recognized as the mastermind behind the murder of Shiori Ino, which is why he was sentenced to life in prison for his role. The actual murderer, Yoshifumi Kubota, who killed Shiori with 2 stab wounds, received a sentence of 18 years. Akira Kawakami and Yoshitaka Ito, the accomplices, each were sentenced to 15 years imprisonment. A year later, in November 2000, Japan passes its first anti-stalking law. Shiori's death changed everything. The law allows police to act before it's too late, to protect people being followed, threatened, or harassed. It's called the Stalker regulation law. Shiori Ino never got the help she needed, but her story helped change a country. Her family made sure the truth was known. They stood up when others stayed silent. Today, many women in Japan are safer because of Shiori. She should be remembered, not as a victim, but as a voice that was finally heard, even in silence. If someone tells you they're being followed, if someone says they're scared, listen. Believe them. One life lost is already too many. Rest in peace, Shiori Ino.
If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe.